Hello and welcome to Feel Good Friday, your weekly dose of positivity right here on our Facebook and YouTube channels. It's the first live stream of 2021. You may notice that we are 3 Fridays, yes, just 3 Fridays into the new year. And that's how we're going to do this show from here on out. Once a month on the third Friday of each month, we're going to spend a little more time diving into some of the positive stories we get to tell here at Forever Ready in both Memphis and Chicago. And we're also going to bring on a live guest to talk about the work that they're doing to build up the community, which is what a great place to start. Today, our first guest of the year is going to be Josh Spickler, the Executive Director of Just City here in Memphis. Before I bring him on the show, I want to show you a video that we produced for them back in 2018, a really interesting and amazing story that talks really about the work that they do. And then we'll bring Josh on to better explain the video and talk about some really exciting news for them this year. So take a look at this story.
Bryan Stevenson always says that it's better to be rich and guilty than poor and innocent in the criminal legal system in America. So I just got off the phone with Carrie. So we came to Memphis to help intervene in a specific case that they've all been working on, the case of Bird, a 16-year-old girl here in Memphis who's been caught up in the system, treated like an adult, transferred 50 miles away to an adult facility, and held in jail, incarcerated pre-trial on a $60,000 bail. A bail at an amount that is out of reach of most people.
It's not fair or equitable to allow that system and that access to be only available to those who have money. The truth of the matter is that the bail does not determine guilt or innocence, and bail is not used to determine guilt or innocence.
We're hoping to change the way that everyone in this community sees people charged with a crime, no matter how heinous. Crime is an awful thing, but treating people this way before they're even charged with a crime, treating children this way is unacceptable.
And so Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights is here to post that bail, to free Bird, hopefully switch the dynamic in her case so that she can receive a fair shot at a just outcome in that case.
And we've connected them with the family today, and we're waiting for Bird's release.
You see how they target certain communities and then extract that money from those communities to help.
I haven't been able to see her in the past couple of weeks. It's been 3 weeks. It was heartbreaking. Definitely. She would tell me she was getting depressed. She was getting discouraged because she felt, that she was kind of just thrown away and forgot about it. This prison, her worst nightmare, was coming true.
We'll do whatever to make sure she stay home.
It's a great example of what it looks like when we all work together from different backgrounds to recognize that there's something unfair about this system and how we can come together to fight it and be successful.
I'm happy to be at home, and I'm thankful for the people that pay my bond.
So she'll come home, but we still got to go to court. We are still fighting this, but we're fighting this from home.
Welcome to the show, Josh. Wow. Wasn't that
Thanks,
fun
Mom.
to watch?
Yeah, it's always fun to watch. I love that video. You guys did a great job. Thanks.
Well, thank you. You helped make that happen. I think everybody's probably watching wondering, what's the update? Because we shot that, it feels like 7 years ago, but it was just in 2018. So where is she? How's she doing? And what happened with that case?
Yeah, well, it took a long time, as these kinds of cases do, but ultimately they dismissed all the charges against Bird, who prefers Rosalind now, by the way. She's,
of course.
Yeah, she's 18 now, I guess close to 19, and now prefers to be known as Rosalind. So anyway, Rosalind's case was completely dismissed last year, which was an outcome that I could have predicted in 2018 when we made that video. The evidence against her was always weak, and it turns out the state of Tennessee decided not to pursue charges against her. And so, but for Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights and us paying that that bond, I presume she would have been waiting for that result for 2 years, missing school, missing her family, missing all the other things she did in the interim.
It's a lot of life. That's a lot of life to be lost sitting in a jail cell. Yeah. So let's back up for a minute. I wanted to update everybody on that because I think it's really cool what happened there. But let's talk about the work you do at Just City. You and your team are busy as ever, but tell us what you do and why it's so important.
Yeah, well, we're still working to fix the system that Rosalynn was trapped in. This is a system that requires wealth in order to fight a criminal charge from home, like Rosalynn and her family were able to do. Right now, there are about 2,000 people in the jail here in Shelby County in Memphis, and almost all of them are there because they can't afford to pay their way out. Almost all of them are there awaiting a disposition of their case. And so we're working to get as many of those people out as we can, just like we did with Rosalynn. But we are obviously limited in the amount of money we can spend on that. But we have the Memphis Community Bail Fund that does what we did for Rosalynn for dozens of people every month. We bailed out 368 people last year. So we'll eventually turn that into it was great. We'll turn that into a campaign to reform the way that this community decides who stays in jail and who gets out. Before we started the bail fund, we started something called the Clean Slate Fund, which is another area in the criminal legal system where money keeps someone from getting to that ultimate goal of justice. And when someone goes through the system, is punished, pays money, does all of the things the system asks of him or her, there is still a step that requires money, and that is a step to seal that record. And so our Clean Slate Fund helps people figure out whether they qualify to have their record sealed. And then if they do, we pay the fee for them. So that program is still going strong. We're here just to shed light, number one, which is why we love working with you guys so much, because you help us tell these stories, but shed light on this system, to shrink this system, to make this system more fair for everyone, no matter the color of your skin, no matter how much money you have, and to make it more humane. We do some work around the death penalty. We have a court watch program where we try to put folks into courtrooms. So just generally trying to keep our eyes on this system and get it to where it is doing the things that it promises us to do, because it's not doing those things right now.
Right. Well, and I appreciate your work because I think it's opened up my eyes as a former reporter, learning all these things I didn't really understand when I was reporting on the very system that you're working to make changes on. We're here to lift people up. We joked earlier about how when you talk, sometimes you bring people down because it's a very serious subject. Let's talk about that $200,000 grant that you all got from the NFL. We don't even have an NFL team in the city. How did this happen?
I know. Well, they reached out to us and said that this is the NFL, the National Football League, and the Players Association. They announced I think it's a 10-year, $95 million program a couple of years ago called Inspire Change. And annually they give grants to organizations across the country who are doing work that the players and owners find important. And they reached out to us, asked us to apply, and a few weeks later, they told us we had won a $200,000 grant from the National Football League. So we found that out Yeah, I know. It's the big deal for us. We're
right. That's what I meant by no big deal.
Yeah, I know.
What the kids do these days.
pretty big cushion for us for our budget. So really exciting, especially since we're an NFL state, but not necessarily an NFL city, and so. All credit to the players. I mean, the owners in the league are doing a good job nowadays of bringing light on some issues. But the players were doing this well before the owners in the league were comfortable with it. I mean, we all remember Colin Kaepernick, kneeling down and then never playing again,
right.
effectively. So we've come a long way, and I think that's really one of the most exciting things about this grant is to see. That organizations like the National Football League, who have big sponsors and big contracts, and they're a big part of American society, and they have come around to believe that work like we're doing here at Just City is worth supporting. So that's really, really, really exciting.
Yeah, it never hurts to get, a major sporting system behind your work. Right. I know when I saw it, I was super proud, both for Memphis and for your work. Speaking of your work, I think one of the things that at least this is how I frame sort of your work, is that you add this side of compassion to what's happening, because I'm a big fan of always saying there's always more to the story. And you're not saying that crime is okay. You're not saying that, folks shouldn't serve time for what they've done. You're just asking for some dignity, maybe even some compassion, in understanding that there are so many layers to this system, and that systemically it's broken. Can you talk about that? Because it's hard for some people to understand why this is a cause that you and your team feel so passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, it is fundamentally broken. What we want, what everyone wants, whether you're rich or poor, black or white, and whether you live in Chicago or Memphis or Portland, Oregon, is you want an opportunity to live, to prosper, to be with the people that you love, and to take care of each other. And that's all we want. And so public safety is particularly scary part of all of that, because crime is real. People do damage each other's property. They do harm each other. Right. They do terrible things to each other. And we have since, humanity began. But, and we want to know that we can trust the people around us. And we want to know that if they do step out of line, if they do break that contract that we all have with each other, that there's going to be accountability, that there's going to be, a process by which the harm is addressed and the person who committed that harm is held to account. But what we have is something far from that. It is something that has, evolved into another form of control and oppression, mostly people of color and predominantly poor people. And so we want to, respect that public safety is important, and that addressing harm and property damage and property loss is important, but we need to do it in a way that restores people and not just further separates them from us. When we separate and when we other so consistently, like we do in the criminal legal system, we're doing more damage than we are good, and we're not getting justice for people who deserve it, and we're not helping people leave this system and never come back, which is the primary goal, as stated in every criminal code in the country. And we just fail miserably at it. We have horrible recidivism rates, and crime continues to be a problem in a lot of our cities. And we're just trying to help folks do it better with, as you say, with a respect for humanity and dignity.
Right. I think the dignity piece is really something that appeals to me and strikes my heart when I think about all this, because we certainly all deserve that. And I think once, when the work happens, our communities become safer and people thrive in our communities, and we aren't seeing such high crime rates. So I know you feel like your work is endless and probably somewhat exhausting some days.
Totally. It's incredibly frustrating. I mean, here in Memphis, we had a really bad year for violent crime last year. We were all trapped at home, opportunity and economic downturn. So it seems like when we make a little progress, we're set back. I mean, the economic downturns that have plagued this community for decades now have really contributed more to crime and the struggle with public safety than anything else. And yet our response continues to be the same thing. It continues to be more prison sentences, more police, more cameras, more guns, more cages. And those things are not the primary tools that we have as a society to address these issues. We have to give hope. We have to give opportunity and the potential for prosperity. When we do those things, crime takes care of itself. And it's frustrating to not hear more of that from leadership, not just in this city, but across the country. And so, we've got a lot of work to do, but it's exciting work. We get to meet people like Rosalind. We get to celebrate stories of the system working like it did for her, but they're so few and far between.
More to fight for sure. So speaking of that, we're in a pandemic. We can't gather. We still need to mask up. How can folks get involved? Because your work is important and you've been busy. You've been working through this whole thing, even if it's been somewhat from home, going from place to place.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the first thing we learned about this virus was from a cruise ship, right? Was from a congregate setting, was from a bunch of people being in one place where they couldn't get away from each other. And that's exactly what jails and prisons are. And so we knew coming into this that we were going to be very busy last year. And the thing that we could do was help get people out of those jails safely. And we did. So we haven't stopped working. We're still working. We're still bailing people out these days. So, one of the things that really took a hit from the pandemic was our Court Watch program, because courts have been closed and slightly opened and then closed again through the course of this, and they're currently closed. And so the real way for people to engage with us was to volunteer for that program and to come with us into court and sit there and watch and listen and learn more about what happens over there, because that's one of the big problems, is that the system operates sort of behind a curtain most of the time. But it's a public public system. We own it, we pay for it. We should go look at it sometimes. And so we hope by the end of the year to be able to engage people in Court Watch again. The things that we can do are follow groups like Just City. Let your county commissioners, city councilmen, state representatives, and state senators know that these systems that you're paying for are ineffective and you want better. I mean, it's kind of a hollow request because I don't have a specific bill or specific law to tell you about right now. But, I think people don't realize, because they don't have to go through these systems. Many of us are fortunate and don't have to engage the criminal legal system, but they're ours. We elect people to run them. Our property taxes and sales taxes are used to fund them, and we need to own them, and we need to make sure that they're working the way they are. So hold your elected officials to account, pay attention. As you said, understand that there are many, many facets and multiple sides to most stories that you hear and see in the media about criminal justice.
Yeah. And, I'm going to plug for you because that's what I do. You can also donate to Just.
You can donate. That's right. What kind of executive director?
Monetarily. But I think the reason why I wanted to have you on right now is because, we have a new national government sort of just rolled in this week, new administration. We have sessions happening in Washington. Locally, there's a lot happening in city council and county commission. And all of these things, there are things on the table, or will be things on the table that you're actively working for reform. But they also tie back to some of the things that are on the table: education, economics, all the things that are happening. And so to be plugged into all these different things and have a better understanding, I think, can help us collectively as a community better understand what changes need to be made. And I think that's what you and your team have been doing for a long time. So we're very grateful for your work. Very, very grateful. And I just have to say, Josh, you're also Emmy nominated.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're an Emmy winner, though. You're an Emmy winner. So.
I am. My whole team is. But I'm going to put in the comments section the piece that we did with your team, How We Fall Short, which is about another sort of barrier in the system when it comes to getting your record cleared after you've served your time. I know that's somewhat of a hopeless story, but it does end with a call to action, which is really what this is all about. Josh, is there anything else you want folks to know before we call it a day?
No, thanks for the plug down there. Support us. We do use we use every dollar to try to break down those barriers that people face when they don't have money. And a place like Memphis, so many of the people, the vast majority of the people come through the criminal legal system, they face one path because they don't have money. You, Lauren, and probably I would face a different path if we were taken into that system. And so if you support us, you're supporting this idea that everyone should get the same shot at justice and the same shot at a fair trial and fair treatment, no matter whether you have money or not. So always fun to talk about these issues, and I tried not to be too much of a downer today, but the NFL news is good news. Rosalind's story is
we can feel good and still feel bad.
Yeah, we're making progress.
We are all a work in progress, and we appreciate the work of you and your team, and we'll continue to lift up your efforts because they are so important in our communities, especially in communities like Memphis and Chicago. So thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, thank
Friday. You. And I can't wait to talk in a couple of months and see what kind of progress has been made. Hopefully, right?
Maybe we'll win another Emmy, huh?
Maybe we'll have to have you on when that happens. Thank you so much, Josh. Have a great rest of the week and into the weekend. Of course, we're not done here yet because I have one more good treat for you. Thanks again to Josh. I really appreciate all the work that they're doing. Here's one more plug for them. Josh didn't ask me to do this. I just believe so strongly in their work. And I think it's really important for us to take time to support our nonprofits because they're still working amidst all that's gone on in the last, it's been a year. A year ago today, the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in the United States. A year. Whew, okay. Anyway, on a lighter note, I'm going to end today with a piece that I put together at the end of the year last year. So like just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I always do a year recap. And if you know me, you know that I capture everything. I have a tendency to take a camera everywhere, capturing life's mundane moments and life's really cool moments. And so at the end of the year, I always edit something together. Well, this year I thought, surely I don't have anything to edit. There's been literally not a whole lot has happened. And what I discovered as I sat down to edit this piece is that a lot happens in the mundane, and a lot happens when life slows down and you're forced to do nothing but spend time with, you know, your family or yourself or whoever you quarantined with. And I captured a bunch of personal moments. And then I realized when work started up again, we had a lot of fulfilling work projects here at Forever Ready. And so what was and usually is a personal reflection turned into a personal reflection that also reflects what we've done here at Forever Ready. It's titled, We're Gonna Make It. I believe that very truthfully. We are. There's so many good things happening right now, and we're on our way, and we're going to make it. So I want to share this piece with you. We'll end our first Feel Good Friday of 2020 with this piece, and we'll see you next month, third Friday of the month, right here on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Have a great weekend, and be safe out there. Just trying to put a little bit of hope into the world, a little bit of beauty, and find ways to get through whatever's ahead. And I'm documenting this so that we can remember it when we get to the other side.
When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping.
Daddy, we're at his new school. Is it your new school? Yay! You gonna see your new friends?
Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping us. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on. We're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains to how we can climb it. Feelings will take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now.
I did it, Mommy.
Don't you give up, don't you give up now.
Rings on the playmat to make a picture.